You hear the term data-driven marketing thrown around all the time, right? But what does that actually mean? And more importantly, how do we use it to stop pouring money down the drain on campaigns that just flop? Well, let's dig in. You've got to love this quote from the department store pioneer John Wanamaker. It perfectly captures this timeless marketing problem. For like a century, marketers have been wrestling with this exact uncertainty. You spend the money, you run the ads, but figuring out what actually worked has always felt like a total shot in the dark. And then data happened. It was supposed to be this huge game changer, right? A shift as big for marketing as the agricultural revolution was for humanity. It was meant to be the light that would finally make everything clear, turning marketing from some kind of mysterious art into a predictable science. But before data could really be the hero, it had to tackle this ancient problem, what we call the marketing black box. Think about it. For so long, marketing was all about gut feelings. Experience, intuition, educated guesses. You'd pour your budget and your brilliant creative ideas into this black box, and some result would pop out the other side. But you never really knew why it worked, or more painfully, why it didn't. The promise of data was that it would smash that box wide open, turning all that guesswork into science and our intuition into real, measurable insight. So hang on, if data was supposed to be the answer to everything, why do so many of us feel totally lost in it? Well, it's because we all kind of fell for the big data hype trap. And this quote from behavioral economist Dan Ariely is just perfect, isn't it? It just nails that feeling of pressure and confusion. There's this vibe that if you're not doing big data, you're already behind, even if you're not totally sure what it even is. And that pressure, it pushes us into these three really common, kind of weird traps. First up is the ghost circle. Data is like this phantom everyone swears by, but nobody's actually seen it work in person. Then you've got the fake data circle, which is just full of junk reports and ads pretending to be insights. But the most dangerous one, that's the overglorified circle, where we start treating data like it's some kind of magic wand. You want a classic example of this overglorified data worship? The myth around Netflix and House of Cards. You know the legend, right? That Netflix basically used an algorithm to cook up this hit show. But the reality? The show's own writer came out and said, nope, not true. Great stories come from human creativity, not from an algorithm. Data can definitely help, but it's not a substitute for a good idea. Okay, so this blind faith in data, this confusion, it leads directly to two huge strategic mistakes. And honestly, these can kill a product before it even gets off the ground. All right, mistake number one, setting the completely wrong goal. This usually happens when what the company thinks is important is totally different from what the customer actually cares about. Look at this famous illusion. The boss might see a frog, what they think is the best thing about their product. But the customer, they might see a horse, what they actually need. Good marketing has to find the overlap, but way too often we just end up marketing the frog. Let me give you a perfect real-world example. There was this air purifier company, and they were super proud of their product's design. I mean, it had won this big international award. So naturally, the founder was all in on making the sleek, beautiful design the star of the entire marketing campaign. But then they did the smart thing. They actually asked people. And the results? They perfectly show this disconnect. When they asked customers what they cared about most, what do you think they said? Overwhelmingly, it was purification power and the convenience of not having to change filters. And the award-winning design? Whoa, it was a distant third. They were about to blow their whole budget marketing the frog when their customers were desperate to buy the horse. Okay, on to the second massive mistake, and this one's a biggie. Targeting the wrong people, usually because we believe that a bigger audience is always better. It's so tempting to think that way, right? Cast a wide net, more people means more sales. But the data tells a completely different story. Here's the thing, going smaller and more precise is just way more efficient. Your marketing costs plummet, you can actually afford to repeat your message enough for people to remember it, and you can craft a super clear message that really connects, which is how you build actual loyalty. Here's another great story to illustrate this. A new ride-hailing app was launching. Their first thought was pretty logical. Our target market is everybody who uses a taxi app, a huge, broad audience. But when they dug into the data, they had this huge aha moment. Their most valuable customers weren't the entire universe of taxi users at all. Nope. It was a much, much smaller group. people who were already using competitor apps, but just hadn't heard of this new brand. And why was that so brilliant? Because this group didn't need to be educated on what a ride-hailing app was. They were already converted. The company just had to convince them they were better. That single insight saved them a fortune.
So you see the pattern here, right? Just having a ton of data isn't the answer. In fact, blindly trusting it leads to some really expensive mistakes. The real solution isn't about getting more data, it's about adopting a whole new mindset, one that uses data to truly understand people.
And the heart of this new way of thinking is a tool you've probably heard of, the user persona. But wait, I'm not talking about those fluffy, useless personas that just sit in a drawer. We're talking about building personas that actually guide every single marketing decision you make. A persona that actually works is built on 3 simple layers. First, there's metadata. That's the who, the basic facts like age and location. Then there's behavior. That's the what, the actions they take. But here's the secret sauce, the part everyone misses. The third layer, attitude. This is the why. Why do they do what they do? What's their deep motivation? That's what turns a useless persona into a game changer.
And if you want to see a masterclass in marketing to an attitude, look no further than the legendary Chano-style ad campaign from the e-commerce site Jume. See, they weren't just aiming at women aged 20 to 30. No, they got way more specific. They zeroed in on this particular generation of young women who had moved to big cities to build a life and were facing just immense pressure from their bosses, from their families back home, from society in general. And this ad just spoke directly to that struggle. Listen to this line. "You only smell my perfume, but you don't see my sweat. You can dismiss our youth, but we will prove whose era this is." Do you feel that? That's not a perfume ad. That's a battle cry. It's not about buying makeup. It's about fighting for your dream.
And that was the lightning in a bottle insight. The core attitude they tapped into wasn't "I want to feel pretty." It was rebellion, a fierce, burning desire to prove everyone wrong. They weren't selling cosmetics. They were selling the defiant spirit of a generation. And it became an anthem.
Okay, so this is all great, but how do you actually do it? How can you put this to work? I want to leave you with a super simple but really powerful tool that brings it all together. Think of it as your new marketing compass. It's the 3C 9-box grid. It's simple. You just analyze the who, what, and why, the metadata, the behavior, and the attitude for 3 key groups: your own users, all the users in the category, and your competitors' users. When you fill this out, it forces you to see the entire market from every angle, and it helps you spot the opportunities that everyone else is missing. So I'll leave you with this question. Take a hard look at how you make decisions right now. Is your marketing still a guess based on a gut feeling? Or are you ready to turn it into a science? To really dig in and understand not just who your customers are, but what truly makes them tick?